Oh, now we're good. Okay. I need
Hi,
I need to say,
everybody.
got it. All right.
I am here with my friend Reggie Berg. Reggie and I have known each other maybe 15 years, maybe even
At
a little
least.
bit more than that. We started
Yeah.
attending Eastman together and studied with some of the same teachers. And I know I've been following Reggie's career as he does all of this kind of incredible stuff. And I think that we have a little bit of a mutual admiration society. I know that I feel a lot of admiration for you as a musician and
Of
person.
course I do. Yes.
Good. I prompted that. See what I did. And I wanted to talk with Reggie about a couple of things today. And the first is that he's been on, I think, 7 Postmodern Jukebox tours as a pianist. And I know that there's a lot of folks out there who love Postmodern Jukebox and would love a little bit of a look behind the scenes of what it takes to be a pianist for Postmodern Jukebox. And then Reggie was recently diagnosed with FND, which is functional neurological disorder. I think I'm getting that right.
Correct.
During his last Postmodern Jukebox tour. And this is one of many injuries that affects pianists. And he had kind of a wild experience and is still going through a wild experience, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And I was just hoping that he could give us a little bit of that story and a little bit of perspective so that we can be aware and know what to look out for something like this. So Reggie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, of course. I think, I'll try to be brief, but I do think it's important to kind of start back with like why I was ever even interested in stride piano, because it's not something that like every jazz pianist gets into. Yeah. And, when I was young, I studied at Interlochen, the Arts Academy. And I had a very old piano teacher. I mean, he was 83 years old. And it was my very first lesson. I walked in and he goes, well, we're going to have a blindfold test. And I thought, oh, wow, like Downbeat Magazine, how cool, uh-huh. Okay, but everything that he put on, I had no idea who it was.
Okay.
I kept saying, well, is that Chick Corea? Like, is that Keith Jarrett? And he said, no. And I got one right. It was Hank Jones. Okay. But everybody was playing an old stride piano. He put Tatum on, and I had never heard Art Tatum. Wow. So he said, if you want to study with me, that's going to be a big part of what we do.
What was the pianist's name? I'm just curious.
So that man was Dave Remington. Okay. Remington has ties to like the Remington trombone study, like teacher who taught at Eastman and became famous and whatever. So he came from a musical family is all I'm trying to say. And that really sparked my interest in like really wanting to learn. Plus I felt humiliated. And so I wanted to like prove him wrong. And so there's always that competitive thing that comes up. So that just kind of like followed me. And it started my interest in stride piano. And so, years later, I had moved to New York City and just did, I would say, the pretty normal thing where you take every gig you can and you struggle and you don't know what's going on, but you do it because everyone else is doing it. And then eventually you find some good teachers who keep you on the right path and whatever. So I was just in that phase of my life. And I met a person named Jesse Elder. And Jesse had gone to Interlochen too and had like the same kind of studies and state training, but we didn't really know each other that well. But Jesse later had become like the music director of Postmodern Jukebox. He had gotten to know Scott Bradley. And so anyway, years later after this, see, this is the whole point. Like, be a good person. Like, yes, be a good player. But like, if you're a good person and people like being around you and they know that you care about them, I swear that goes further than anything in your career. And just not even career, but anything. Because it's like, for some reason, it's like 5 years later, I hadn't even seen Jesse. I just put little things on Facebook every once in a while. He called me and said, hey man, I think you'd be really good for Postmodern Jukebox. What do you think? And I was like, what? I had to audition. And from what I know, okay, so the audition was still the same as it always used to be. you have to play along with a recording of the Haley Reinhart version of Creep. And he wants you to play like Scott. It's not, I mean, you know, you can have some leadway, but like if you don't fill the way Scott fills behind the singer and you don't have the sensitivity that Scott does, like you're not going to get the gig, you know? So that's
how
what
did
they're
you prepare?
looking.
Did you like transcribe the whole thing basically?
I did. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like any Eastman jazz student would, you know. I mean, the other pianists were just like, well, it just sounds like it's F major, so I just did. And I was like, no, that's not how you do. No, you don't do it like that. So that's how I did. And then you also have to play with a recording of Bad Romance, the wonderful Lady Gaga tune, and for whatever you want to take that as. And I do like our version of it. But that deals with just like fast stride, it's staccato stride. I mean, you're all over the place the whole time. And
that stuff just like still stresses me out. I've done it a lot. Do you get stressed, or do you feel pretty confident in like your accuracy? And
what I've had to, right, that's the word, accuracy. What I've had to learn in the touring is that, I'm just going to miss. There's going to be times where I'm going to miss, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to get right back on track. I'm not going to stop. I mean, you can't stop the rhythm. But yeah, I'm going to miss. Like, you know, I might mean to play A minor, and I'll play B, C, E, you know, or G, C, E. And it's like, you know what?
It's not going to ruin the performance.
What's the big deal? You know, like, I mean,
for me, the accuracy is half of it, and then tensing up is the other half, especially if I get nervous, right?
Yeah.
And that is hard to combat, at least for me.
The reason why Scott said he hired me, because they say it's like kind of like 100 people will audition and he picks one, and it's just videos. I had no idea. But it's like, if he can just see your arm and it looks like, you know, if you just can do this, you know, like, and it looks like fluff, like you're not doing anything. Like if you're doing, you know, if you're doing, then no, you're never going to be able to do the gig, you know? So it's mainly, he just is looking for like that like fluidity and like the looseness. Like when I've seen Scott play, I mean, I love Scott to pieces, but I mean, Scott's the kind of guy who will like go out on stage and say, hey, what do you guys want to hear? Do you want to hear Queen? Oh, now you want to hear Metallica? Oh, Nirvana? Okay, I'll put them all together right now. And there's very few pianists, like maybe Bill Cunliffe, that can actually do that and clean as fuck. You might have to edit that. But I mean, but he's Bill Cunliffe, you know? So like, and Scott's not, and he knows that, and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that like, hey, I'm fearless. I'm getting up there. I'm giving an audience what they want, and I'm doing it. So let's go. You know, it's like sports. You know, it's like,
there's a machismo about it.
Yeah, because if you don't have that attitude, you're gonna. I mean, you just can't even. You can't. You're gonna fall apart. Stride piano. You know. So I mean, I've kind of trailed off. Is there another? Do you want to get me back onto like a path of something to talk about?
Okay, so you audition, you got the gig, and then there's like rehearsals before you go out on tour.
What I learned was this. They send you charts. The charts honestly just look like very like easy jazz charts. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. But the thing is that like if you're the pianist, you really need to spend the time watching the YouTube videos, watching the live videos, because it's always different between touring and the YouTube videos that they make when Scott's on them. So as long as you do your homework and you take like notes and notes and notes and like, oh, Scott does this fill here. And like, I mean, if you do that, you don't have to, but like, if you do, you will show up and Scott's not going to say a word to you except thank you so much. If you show up, like I've had other jazz piano friends from New York who got hired to do this gig, and they showed up just thinking like, it's like a jazz gig, you know, you know, it's just C major, so I can just he will rip you apart, because that's not the gig.
Right. And so I guess that leads into my next question is like, once you're touring, how much leeway do you have to play like a
Right.
jazz player and comp? I mean,
So,
comp in the style.
Right. Here's how I look at it. I'm always a good little boy in rehearsals, and he ends up loving me. And wow, you did everything I told you to do. Okay, but when he's not there, he's not there. So, if I want to play like a 6-minute long Keith Jarrett intro, like I'm gonna do that, and like if I want to add a sharp 9, well, let's try it out. Why not? See how that sounds. I mean, like I will try everything because I get so bored all the time. I mean, like playing the same show like 74 times in a row.
Wow.
So like for me to be interested and the crowd to actually realize that I'm interested, I'm not going to go out there and treat it like it's some damn Broadway show, which is a thing in itself. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but
right.
They have
you're at least making a
supervisors.
Claim that it's jazz.
Yeah. So I would say like, yeah, BMJ definitely is still jazz. It really depends a lot on like the music director. I mean, when we had Jesse Elder music directing, I mean, Jesse's the kind of guy who like, he would look at you and say, hey, you know what? Tomorrow night, you gave me an idea. I want you to try this. And like, I love those people,
Yeah, sure.
There's other music directors that we have who say, hey, last night, I mean, and it was really cool. I mean, it was like really like Kenny Kirkland. That was cool. It made me happy, but don't do it ever again.
Right. I guess that's like what it means to have a franchise, that you have to kind of like hand it off and then people are going to run it differently. Right.
Right. And it's different every tour because we have a roster, and, I asked Scott a few years ago, and this gets into the illness. I asked him just a few days ago.
Okay.
He said, do you think touring in general contributed to getting this illness? And I said, yeah, of course. And he explained to me that like for him, he did one tour for a whole year. I mean, he toured it's his band, for 1 year when they were getting off the ground, and like you're still doing that whole like, you have like the little creeper white van that everybody has to like be in all the time, and you sleep in like Super 6 motels or whatever it's called. Okay, so I mean, like that's how the group started, just like every group does. Unless you do like the house concert thing like you've done. And like he said, he did it for 1 year and said, that's it, I'm done. Like, I am never touring again. I hate this. I hate not sleeping in bed. Like, I hate the catering. Like, just so I hate not being able to exercise every day. Like, I mean, it's just stuff like that. He's like, it's not for me. So that's why he started hiring other piano players to do what we do.
Yeah.
And
you guys are mostly in a bus, or at least the US tour was mostly in a bus.
We're in a bus that usually doesn't break down too, but sometimes it does. So, but like, yeah, I mean, it's a bus. It's like those big old, I don't know how to, it's like what you would see a normal like heavy metal band in. Like you would fit like 14 or 15 people in it. There's a lounge, there's a bunk area.
You guys don't even sleep in hotels, like you sleep in the bus, right?
Well, depends on like, if you're, it's both. It's like both. It's like, if the schedule sometimes is like, okay, you play 7 shows in a row, which to me is way too many.
Yeah.
Like 7 shows, then you might get like 2 days off. And those 2 days off, you're going to be put in like, if it's Europe, you're going to be put in like a Radisson hotel. And you can hopefully relax a little bit. And then, so it's either, like that, like 3 shows, 4 shows, 2 shows. It's never like what we all want, which is like 2 shows, 1 day off, 2 shows, 1 day off, 2 shows. It's never like that. No. So
yeah, do you want to talk about what started happening on the road that led to this diagnosis?
Yeah, I would say, well, it's funny because see, I thought what I had was dystonia at first, and it's similar. What I can tell you is like, it's not happening really right now. I've always had like what's called a benign tremor in my hand. So if I just hold them up, you can see that they're not completely still.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but what started to happen, and I think it was just a result of like playing fatigue. I mean, if you're playing a show 3 hours a night and you're playing stride piano, and you're not practicing ever, just some things are going to start to happen where it's like, muscle fatigue, or like this would become like this bad.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there trying to play like Danny Boy, like by myself on stage, like this is not going to work. It was mainly in my right hand where it happened. And there were other things that started to occur where I would like drop down. And I was curious to ask you about this because I know how much you studied with Sophia.
Yeah.
The way I learned was that you use weight and you drop into the key bed and you come out of the key bed, like as soon as you feel it, you come out so that you don't like force and press.
Right.
I mean, that's how I was taught from a young age. And what happens now with my left hand, if I do that same motion, I just go like vertically down, my shoulder will go like that. Whoa. Like it spasms as a result of something being, because we're tied together here. So I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I know that it's happening, and I'm like, well, that's great, cool. You're gonna get a lot of ladies with that, so, I don't really know, but when I go into like my neurology appointments.
But then wait, at a certain point, weren't you like not able to play at all? You like
yes.
You like weren't even able to move one of your hands, isn't that right?
So yeah, like when this got as bad as it got ever, like I'm on stage, what I remember, like intermission, I got a pain right here. And I just thought it was like, oh, I just need to, like it's this thing. I just need to like stretch, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then I go out on stage, all of a sudden I'm starting to feel like I'm having a hard time like breathing. And I thought that might just be because you're on stage, like, and you get adrenaline or whatever, like. And I sit down and all of a sudden everything like spread to my shoulder, like this big pain.
Oh, no.
Like not just pain, but like a block, like you can't move it kind of a thing. And it spread down into here, like this, like, like this is your rhomboid.
Yeah.
So like, okay. And a lot of it, I think, I'm talking to Nancy, mm-hmm. Like there's ulnar deviation where, we're supposed to be in an aligned way, right? Well, if you play a little bit more this way sometimes, which I know I do, mm-hmm. because I'm trying to like voice out my pinky above mm-hmm. the other fingers. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all guilty of it sometimes.
Sure.
But if you do that, well, that causes all this messed up stuff like right here in your rhomboid. And same thing, like if you move this way, well, now you can feel all this tension like right down in your tendons. So,
right, and just to be clear, you're mainly experiencing, or at least you're showing with the right arm. So
for me,
that's not the one that's playing stride, which is interesting to me. I would figure that would be more of the problem.
See, that's what I thought. But I think what goes on is that I'm focusing so much on the left hand.
So you're like overcompensating.
And because it's an out of balance thing. Mm-hmm. And it's also because like I haven't practiced it. I'm worried about it. Like, is this happening? Is this how you do it? Like all the anxiety thoughts that get into your head.
Sure.
Then you completely forget about what you're doing with the other hand. So like, it doesn't matter that like, I was trained to have pretty good technique, I think. But, if you're in a situation where you're just stressed out, mm-hmm. you're not playing with good technique, So,
so you had to kind of leave that tour. And
so, yeah, when it got that bad, I mean, I couldn't, the next day I showed up for sound check, I couldn't even play. Like I couldn't play anything with my right hand. And I just like bawled, I was so scared. I didn't know what the heck was going on, So after 4 days, I tried to play shows like only with my left hand, and they kept making all these jokes like on stage. Like, yeah, Reggie's such a good guy. He got hit by a car, but like he's doing his best. Okay, and so it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I just said, what the biggest thing, why I think it really is like the whatever FND or FD, whatever, is that it causes a huge mental like decline, and it causes anxiety and depression, and it causes like suicide. Not to bring up a scary word, but like all that will just drop you way down into like suicide ideation, which is all that means is that you're thinking about it a lot. It doesn't mean that you are at risk for suicide.
Yeah.
But it's something that happens to a lot of musicians. And so I think all of that trauma is now just like, look, it's been a month, but it's not like you heal from those things fast. So I think like now when I have issues where I'm like, I can't remember where my car is, like, I don't know where I put that, I don't know where this is, like, it's just trying to still recover, you know? So
You think you're not going to play piano professionally ever again?
I think in a stressful situation, no. And I think as far as touring, no. And mainly because of everything I cited in terms of just like how important I've figured out health really is. I mean, there's biologically everyone's different. I mean, I know people on the road that like they're drunk and puking every night and somehow they are fine, and I know people on the road that they are, they have eating things, like they have to eat only certain food, like, so what I learned about myself though is that like I'm a bit more sensitive than I wanted to admit. Getting that 8 hours of sleep in a bed that I like, getting to wake up and like have a routine of food that's my food, like I'm a little bit more like a barn animal like than I thought I was. So I'm okay with that, and I've gotten to do it. I mean, touring was like a dream of mine. So I don't feel like I need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Do
you think you're going to be able to play recreationally?
That's what I mean. Yeah. I mean, I would love nothing more. The other day I tried to sit down. And one of my favorite pieces is everyone loves this piece, the Brahms Intermezzo, the Opus 118 number 2, or is it 3? It's 2, I think, right? With the motive. I mean, if I can just get to a point in my life where I can sit down and I can enjoy how I sound playing that alone in my house, in my basement, like that would mean so much to me.
Yeah.
But right now it's just so, I mean, we all know how depressing it is to play poorly and have it affect you. And you don't know what you did wrong. Like you thought you did everything you could to practice hard enough. But like to just seriously sit there and not be able to access anything that's in your mind. Like I haven't lost that part of my mind, but I can't physically execute anything. Like my touch. I mean, everything that I worked so hard on. So, I mean, I just made the decision that like, I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm not giving up, but life's, you have to do your best to be happy in life, no matter what. I mean, people have all kinds of things that are worse than this. People's wives die, and they have to find a way to keep going. So it's one of these things where it's a very grief-stricken experience. But the music's really within you, like my personality is still the same, I can still make jokes that are like, I've made you laugh some. If Harold Danko, that guy was a funny guy. If he never played piano, I still would have known who he was, and Fred, Fred's such a strong personality sometimes, you don't need to hear him even play. I'm so glad we get to. But that's what I'm learning.
Yeah, that's a deep lesson.
Yeah. And I mean, same with you. I mean, Dave Tedeschi and I talk about you like every week when we used to tour together. And the first thing Dave always said was, I can't believe how lucky I was that I got to play. He goes, I can't believe I played with him because I'm so horrible.
Well, that's a load of crap.
well, and then I listened to the recordings and I said, yeah, you're right. You did suck. No, I'm just joking. but he just said, I can't believe how lucky I was because, and there's just no nicer person, no kinder person who cares so much about people than Jeremy. And if anybody could be just like a huge dick because of how good they are, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And I've always felt that way about you, man. So
thank you. The feeling is mutual, and I know that you have a lot to contribute, whether it's in the, whether it's performing publicly or whether it's in a different space. You have so much to contribute. But let's wrap this up and let people know how they can help you and kind of why you need a little bit of help at this juncture, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. So the situation is that when I needed to see a lot of doctors, like neurologists and specialists, medical bills started to accrue very quickly, like MRIs, 12 blood panels. I mean, I could go on, but it was a lot to have to pay for. And one option that everybody has, of course, is like you can get on Medicaid. The issue with Medicaid is that you can't make any money and be on Medicaid, and you can make like $1,200 a month. So the problem that I'm running into is like, okay, so maybe my medical bills are starting to be covered, but I can't pay my bills. So it's like this wonderful United States government way of handling this situation.
Yeah, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. So my decision was, even if I lose Medicaid, which I probably will by doing this, I'm going to start a GoFundMe campaign and just see how much money I can bring in for myself to help me pay for medical bills and also help me just go to Costco and buy groceries, like live frugally. But also I need to enjoy my life. I mean, this isn't the time to be like, oh, I don't know if I should get the gas tank full. I mean, this is not, I have enough things to worry about, So I decided to go ahead and take the plunge, ask for some help. I outlined very clearly what's going on with me, like in my own GoFundMe writing. I wrote it myself and I just rewrote it again. And the link is in your email, Jeremy. But
yeah, I'll put it in the YouTube comments. So, for once, I will not try to sell any books in the YouTube comments. I'll just put the GoFundMe link. And if people buy books, that's their decision.
That was perfect. Wow, that was good. So good timing. Wow. Okay, so anytime. So I think. Yeah, you'll be able, you feel free to read and click. It's not excessive information. I tried to make it concise. That's the whole thing nowadays. And, if anything, it is a fascinating disorder that will tell you a lot about the mind, body, human, all that stuff, connection. And it will make you feel a little bit more thankful for just the small things that you have every day of your life. If you can contribute in any way, it will go to really great use. My usual salary that I have made as a musician over a year's time is around $90,000, and I've had to work really hard to get to that point. I used to be probably every $20,000, $30,000 range person, but it came from touring and it came from other things. The reason why I'm saying this is because it usually takes 1 to 2 years to recover and go through the trainings that you need to go through to get back to a point where you're in pretty good shape again with the illness. So I'm just thinking how much money do I need to get through that time if I can't work? And I'm the kind of person that if I can go work at a donut shop or something, I'll go do that. But right now I can't do that. So I hope this makes sense. And, I really appreciate everybody listening to everything I've said. I hope you got something out of it. And you can always email me, like any questions, anything. I like to talk, so.
You're good at it. And if anybody wants to hear some of your music, is there a place where they can do that?
Yeah, well, I have an album that I put out a few years ago. It's on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. It's called My Spoken Heart. It was for a girl, and geez, wow. And then actually in the article that I wrote in terms of the GoFundMe, there's a link to a video. It's one of my favorite compositions that I wrote. It's very like Fred Hirsch-y. I mean, as much as I can try. It's called My Awoken Heart. But you'll hear it and you'll go, oh yeah, I know what he was doing.
All right. Well.
So yeah, give that a listen and then see
Okay.
what you think.
Awesome. Reggie, you're one of my favorite people. I know you're going to pull through this, and
Thank you.
Reach out. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. Okay.
All right. Thank you, man. Love you. You're great. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Take good care, Reggie.
All right. See you, man.
Bye-bye.